KODI, a 96.7 FM, 1400 AM. Now it's time for the award-winning Speak Your Piece. Now, here's your host, Mac Watson.
And welcome to another edition of Speak Your Piece. I am Mac Watson, and today my guest in studio, Rebekah Burns from the Powell Economic Partnership. Every so often, I like having Rebekah on, talking about Park County prosperity. We all want this county to succeed, and we all want people to bring business here and to maybe grow or expand a little bit. But every so often I have Rebekah on. We talk about different parts of that prosperity. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for
are you using that other? Okay, go ahead.
Good morning.
I thought
Thanks
you were
for
using
having
other
me.
headphones. Okay. All right. You know, I just read something about the expansion of Park County and how we are expanding not in a astronomical way, but we did grow. We did grow within the last year or so, which is not a bad thing. I like growth, but there are people here that don't have that growth mindset, and that can be very hard for businesses and people to attract other businesses and stuff like that. As far as your job is concerned, you got to have a growth mindset, right? If you don't have a growth mindset, then you're stagnant, right? You're stale, right?
Sure. So
I mean, things can't stay the same.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a naive thing to think that things are going to stay the same.
Right.
I would say, so PEP is at the intersection of business and government, right? So we're kind of in the middle of those two entities. We represent the business community.
Right.
We go out often and ask them, what are your hurdles? What are your opportunities? What can we do to help facilitate your business growth?
Yeah.
We just finished a business retention survey with approximately 150 in-person, one-on-one conversations.
And these are all business people within Powell or within Park County?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're members, so we have members all over the state.
Yeah.
But yes, a focus for sure is in Powell and Park County.
Okay.
And in this survey, it's a pretty typical survey from the International Economic Development Council. And it goes over a myriad of different types of things. But one of the sections that we asked about was workforce and skills. And in that workforce and skills section, we talked about, are you needing or do you see a need for management training and leadership training? And so we definitely heard a resounding yes.
Oh. So there is this need of, I want to learn more. I need to find more things out in order to improve my business, in order to improve my, selling whatever it is or service or whatever it is. So they are interested in that.
100%.
So what do you do from there? I mean, okay, I can be interested in anything, but how do you then give them the tools to succeed?
Sure. So, Park County Prosperity, each of these episodes, we look at how we can make strategic investments today to create lasting economic opportunities for future generations. And the biggest investment that any business owner, manager, or anyone in a leadership position can make is in themselves.
Themselves. Not their business, not their employees, but themselves.
When you invest in yourself, the ripple effect will be enormous.
Okay, what does that mean, though? What is investing in yourself?
Sure. So I personally believe, we're talking about the business community, right, specifically, because that's who we assist. We're a membership organization. But I honestly believe everyone is a leader. And I think that's counterintuitive. But we are all leading the one person that we have control over.
Which is ourselves.
Ourselves.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So leadership to me is a relentless pursuit of the truth over the only thing that we can control, ourselves. So a relentless pursuit of the truth. I'm just going to get super personal.
Okay.
Why not, right? So let's get personal in this conversation. Y'all can tune into your radios, lean in a little bit.
Press the radio to your ear. This is important.
Exactly. So I would say, leadership is a journey, and it's not something that everybody does perfectly right off the gate. Far from it. In fact, it's important to constantly lean in and tune in and refine our own leadership skills if we are in charge of anyone other than ourselves. If you're a mom or a dad, you're in charge of your family, right? If you might be in charge of a team, but ultimately everyone walking on this planet is in charge of themselves. So they can implement these types of leadership skills first and foremost. And what I realized really as the executive director of PEP was that to be a leader, I need to first make sure that my own health and well-being is in check. So if I'm a healthy
physical and mental, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was mostly mental.
Yeah.
And it was, I'm not a gym rapper or whatever. And I do think physical health is really important. Obviously,
right.
If your physical health is not in check, you can't think of anything else. So, in the list of hierarchy, but mental health. And I think a lot of us are not as mentally healthy as we could be. And we're bringing that into our day-to-day interactions with our family, with our coworkers, with clients, with the myriad of, business services that we might have, people that we employ to market our company, or lawyers, accountants, so on and so forth. We're dealing with other people constantly and having these hard conversations. And if we're not arming ourselves and really focusing on our mental health and well-being, we're just not going to be good leaders.
How do you do that, though? I mean, do you physically have to take a break? Do you have a check? Like, how am I feeling today? Or like, how do you how do you actually make sure mentally you're at your prime, peak of whatever?
I think there's so many different ways to answer this question. Okay. There are definitely practices that you can put in place, but I think overall you need to understand what your values are. And
what do you stand for? Yeah.
Yeah. What do you stand for? What are your values? And you need to make sure that you're living in line with your own values. And if a person has health and well-being and they're living in line with their own values, when they walk into any door, be it the, where your workplace or meeting a client, you're going to bring your best self.
Right.
And that's really ultimately the goal. For me personally, what I ended up doing is I'm a research hound. That's how I tackle everything. If I don't understand it, I just dive into content. And I ended up just really diving into different podcasts that were, honestly, they're like counseling podcasts, health and well-being podcasts. I like Deborah Fileta. She's one that I've really connected with, and I think gives really good practical advice. And it's a good reminder, it's all about like, okay, are you keeping yourself in check? And even throughout the day, how many times has someone started off the day? It's a gorgeous day today, right? It's a gorgeous day. There's no weather. It's awesome driving over here to Cody. And then, boom, you might have an interaction with someone at the grocery store or the gas station, or
you might get a phone call or something.
Might get a phone call or whatever. And then, how does that push you off your axis? How quickly does it push you off your axis? If it's pushing you off your axis quickly, then you need to be focusing on your own health and well-being.
And then that can affect your business decisions. That can affect the way you interact with your employees or your clients. Yeah.
It affects everything.
So we're talking about the Park County prosperity. This is something we've come up with. Rebekah Burns and I came up with about prosperity in Park County. We're talking about business leadership today and what it takes to be a leader. Rebekah is the executive director of the Powell Economic Partnership. We're going to have more Speak Your Piece coming up on KODI. Speak Your Piece continues now on KODI with my guest in studio, Powell Economic Partnership Executive Director Rebekah Burns. We're talking about Park County prosperity and what it takes to be, quote-unquote, prosperous, especially when you're a business person. And it all comes down to leadership and what kind of leader that you are. Before we took a break, you were talking about, a mental health check, a mental well-being check. And you were talking about if you can't be focused on your axis, well, how do you expect anybody else to be? And that can really affect your business acumen. It can affect the way you interact with employees. We just talked about Monday and Friday, the passing of Al Simpson. And I thought it was really interesting that the word that kept coming up for the description of Al Simpson was he's a straight shooter. He's a tell you how he feels. Which is true, but I like to think of it as authentic. If you cannot be your authentic self with clarity, with discernment, what are you doing? You are playing a role, and that role may not suit you or your business. So you don't have to be a big business leader by making all this money and be able to, how about just being a good person with a business? You know, that kind of thing. That'll do a lot more for your mental health, right?
I 100% agree, and I think it affects everyone's bottom line. You know, as a business owner, I think the other epiphany that I had in being a leader of, you know, my own family and the team at PEP is that I really had to hone in on the belief that everyone is valuable.
Yes, everyone has value. Yes,
everyone has value. Everybody has gifts and talents, and most people do not know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've had...
Do you mean personally? Like, I don't know what my gifts and talents are?
Yes.
Oh, I got you.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I think a lot of people are walking around and they're not really sure why they were put on this earth, what their purpose is, and, you know, how can they best utilize their own gifts and talents, right?
Right.
And so I think leadership is understanding intrinsically that everyone has value and that you as the leader are going to need to recognize that value in those people and teach that to them. As a parent, I think this comes pretty naturally. Like that's something that is understood. You keep your kids safe and you make them the best versions of themselves. But as a boss, that was something that was lost on me. Like at the start, I didn't realize that that's really what I was doing, that I needed to kind of like look inside of the people under my care and feed into them as well.
So if you, and I love the example of a parent because that is really the primal leadership role, really, if you decide to have kids. But you can't be the best parent for your kids if you're not the best. Like, I love it when you say on your axis, as far as what am I going to do today? What am I going to do today for my kids? There are a number of people that I've come across that love to save people. They love to rescue people. Well, that's chaos. You shouldn't thrive on chaos. And I think the best leaders are not people that boss everybody else around or have the loudest voice in the room. The best leaders may not say two words, but you know they have presence, they have knowledge, they have wisdom, but they don't have to project it all the time. Does that make sense? That you don't have to be the loudest person in the room to say, I know what's best for my company. So you just lead by example.
So that goes back to personal health and well-being and understanding boundaries. If you understand boundaries, then you're not that person. So again, first, to be a good leader, in my opinion, in my personal journey, I had to understand my personal health and well-being and really being in tune in that and making sure that I'm on my axis. And I'm not saying that I needed to be perfectly healthy every single day. That is an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
But to create those boundaries with staff, even saying like, I'm having a hard time today, I need you to back off. Like, you know, and having those open and honest conversations, like you said, those authentic conversations, I think that's fine. But then understanding how to get back on your axis. The second one is a belief that everyone is valuable. This really came from Bob Chapman. And all of these, like I said at the beginning of the show, all of these things I'm talking about today are from resources that I have researched or been introduced to.
Who is Bob Chapman?
Bob Chapman is the CEO of a company called Barry Waymiller, which you've never heard. It's in the Midwest in St. Louis. And it is probably, it's a global company that builds machines for other manufacturers. That's why you'd never
build machines for other manufacturers. Okay.
Yeah, so it builds machines to make boxes, builds machines to like clean bottles. They started out in the in milk and alcohol sphere with bottles, but they're a global company. So this guy Bob Chapman had a series of epiphanies, but when you boil it down, is that he came to realize that his thousands of employees are actually people's precious children under his care.
Right.
And that if he treated people as such, they go home and they have better family lives. Mm-hmm. They have better community relationships because they understand they understand that they're intrinsically valuable. And what they can bring to everyone else. They're feeling fed at work. They're feeling valued at work, and they're translating that to the community at large. So this is why it was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, so I'm an economic developer who's in charge of bringing business and industry, resources. And then there's this epiphany of like, well, all of these people are leading other people, and they all have people in their charge. And if we want to actually have a ripple effect in the community, the best way to do that is to teach people about these leadership skills.
Yeah, right. One of the best leaders that I ever had in my career was a gentleman who didn't have all the answers and was really good at extracting answers from his staff. He didn't dictate. He questioned.
Yes.
And by questioning, you're inviting other people with their expertise to solve the problem or to, make the company better, if you will, by using your experience and your talent. Now, ultimately, the decision was up to him. But I watched him in a meeting once where he went around the room and we collectively all kind of came to this agreement through different various inputs and different experiences, but we all came to this collective agreement that we should do this. It was brilliant. It was like a master class where most of us are used to the jerk who just says, I'm the boss because I said so. That doesn't motivate people. That doesn't put people in a good space, like you said, to feel valued.
Yes, so many things to unpack there. You aren't a leader because of your position. It's because of the behavior, your behavior. And again, anyone can be walking around and be a leader. You can be a leader of yourself. You should be. You can be a horizontal leader, so a leader of your peers. Mm-hmm. You can lead upward and you can lead downward.
Right.
It is a 360-degree, 3D bubble around yourself.
Right.
So when you're adopting these principles, you should have a ripple effect. And if you intrinsically value people, of course you value their opinion.
Right.
Of course that guy was like, hey, I've hired good people. I want to know what their opinion is. You need to understand that everybody's bringing something different to the table and that a team brings the best results. So great point.
The other thing, too, I will say is that, and again, I've learned this through my own life with my own kids, lead with kindness. There is, and I'm not going to mention names, but there is one person in this community, I will never go to his business. It wasn't because of his business or because of his product. It was because how he treated somebody and I saw it. There is no reason to be an ass. There's no reason to be a jerk. Lead with kindness and try to understand you don't know what somebody else is going through in their life. So maybe they're having a good day. How about a little bit of grace? How about just giving them a little bit of grace and saying, hey, I'm sorry, maybe you're having a bad day or whatever. But instead we get into this conflict of, well, I've got to get in the last word, or I've got to make sure you know that I'm in charge. All you're doing is fostering, again, chaos and negativity and not building people up, but you're tearing people down.
So that sounds like a person who has ego or self-worth issues. So that goes back to number one.
There you go. Making
sure that you have personal health and well-being, and that is in check. I think a lot of times, a lot of these different issues you might be able to self-diagnose them. Sometimes you have a staff member or someone that you really trust, like a friend or a spouse or a church leader or something like that, that's recognizing an area of growth in you. And I think it's super important to then say, okay, again, if for me personally, the relentless pursuit of truth over the one thing I can control myself. Mm-hmm. And if you hear something like 3 times, it's probably accurate.
You mean about yourself?
About yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably accurate. And then you can go and look for tools. And there are so many tools out there, and so many of them are free or nearly free. Or you go to the library and get a lot of these leadership books. When you're talking about like the team and how great it was that you had a boss and really allowing everybody to give input, that reminds me of Patrick Lencioni. He has written a lot of books, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. His newest one is 6 Working Geniuses, the 6 Working Geniuses, which is there's an assessment that you can take. It's a quick $25, 15-minute team assessment. But what his theory is that everybody has a different working genius. And if you're in a field that does a lot of project management, this is definitely a tool for you. So we use this at PEP, and it really defines, like, if you are a person who wonders, if you question, if you're the type of person that is like, hey, I think we can do better here. I think we're missing the mark here. And then you have, the next cog down is innovation. If you really are a person who ideas come easy, then the next cog down is discernment, and be like, when should we implement these ideas, and when is questioning, appropriate, and when is it, too late in the game to start questioning something. And they have all these 6 different working geniuses defined. And again, it's just so much easier if you're talking the same language with your team and say, hey, I know that you're a wanderer, and I don't need your W right now. I need that we're at the end of this project. We need to execute it.
Right.
We don't need to start questioning if the 6 months of work that we've done is correct or not. We've already decided, and we're moving forward. And then it's kind of like, it's not saying, hey, I'm discounting you. It's just like, you're important. We know what your skills are.
Yeah,
we just don't need them at this particular time.
And you need somebody to say, we're moving in this direction. You need one person, or else you get, paralysis by analysis kind of thing, that everybody just has an opinion and nothing gets solved, nothing gets done, nothing gets implemented.
That's because there's too many people that are hired in the same room.
Gotcha.
And so the idea that Patrick Lansoni is saying is, like, if you have everybody in the spectrum, these 6 working geniuses, you will move something along, because intrinsically these people are either the people who have a lot of tenacity, or they're the helping people, or they're the people with the ideas, but they're going to move this project along.
Yeah. My guest today is Rebekah Burns. She's the PEP Executive Director, Powell Economic Partnership. This is Park County Prosperity. We do this every so often, talking about business, talking about how to be a better business leader, how to, implement better business tactics, that kind of thing. We're going to have more Speak Your Piece coming up on KODI. All right, Speak Your Piece continues now on KODI with my guest. In studio, Rebekah Burns. She's the Powell Economic Partnership Executive Director. We're talking about business leadership. This is part of our Park County Prosperity, series, if you will. A couple of times a month, Rebekah will come on and we'll talk about all kinds of things business-wise. Today we're talking about leadership and how important leadership is. And again, you don't have to be a Bill Gates, or you don't have to be an Elon Musk, or whatever, to start these big grand companies and make billions of dollars and change the world or whatever. Some of the best leaders are quiet. Some of the best leaders don't say much, but they have the best interest of the company or the organization or whatever at heart. I kind of sort of told you my story. Who's one of the best leaders you've ever seen in your experience? What did you learn from them, as far as what you took from them and implemented PEP or another part of your leadership skills?
I really look at outside resources, and the biggest influence that our team experiences currently are all from national sources. So, Bob Chapman. Yeah. Everybody at work has seen that video, mm-hmm. And understanding, like, how can you really care for people? What does it look like to truly care for people under your charge? What does that actually look like? And those, Bob Chapman has books, and, that's a resource. I think there's a lot of practical resources, and I lean on a guy named Craig Groeschel, mm-hmm. who has a leadership podcast. He also is a faith-based leader, but he's really, really good at systems and processes. And so if there is ever a time where I'm just like, oh, this is just not working, the flow of work isn't working, or, the flow of management, or understanding, a process. He's a really great guy to go research.
Yeah.
His name is Craig Gershell, and he's super awesome at processes and systems, and he can break things down into easy, actionable steps that you can implement today. Another person who's really good about specifically about teams and creating teams or dysfunctions in teams. And oh my gosh, I think he's got another book about like death by meetings or something like that. And that is, holy moly, we have so many meetings in Wyoming. Like, there's so many meetings and they're always an hour. When I worked outside, it was never like that. Like, you picked up the phone and you left a message and somebody got back to you, or you sent an email and that email was sent. There were sometimes were meetings, but you had like weekly staff meetings and that kind of thing. But here it's just like, oh my, death by meetings is super real.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. And
is it just an old school way of doing it?
Why meetings can't happen in like 15 minutes to 30 minutes. If you are articulate and you know what needs to get done, you don't need to talk for an hour. 30 minutes will do just fine.
Right.
And you have plenty of time for the niceties at the beginning and the end of the meeting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, so there's a lot of really great, actionable things. And if you don't want to buy books, you could just go on YouTube. Or go on Spotify. Yeah. There's tons of free podcast content and YouTube content. So Patrick Lansoni is also really good at those types of things. Okay, if you want to get better at your communication, because we all understand as leaders, communication is key.
Yes.
It is pervasive, right? And so to get better at communicating, there's a couple people who I really like. Vanessa Van Edwards is one of them. She owns this company called The Science of People. And it's based on a lot of data, but it's like eye contact, saying hello with a big open palm, all of these really actionable things. She also does, planning for your year and all kinds of really great other content that you can. I
think I've seen her.
Yeah, Vanessa Van Edwards. She's done a TED Talks.
Oh, so, yeah. I think I've seen her. And one of the things that I like about her is that she makes it. I don't want to say dumbs it down, but she makes it simple. And it's stuff that you're like, oh, yeah. But you don't know you're doing it, or you haven't experienced it before. Like, one of the things that I saw was talk to somebody, but record yourself talking to somebody. See your facial expressions. See how you greet them. See how you do you keep eye contact? Do you look around the room? How do you interact? Because, and this is going to sound weird, Kiss did not become Kiss because they were just good at being a band. Their manager filmed them during rehearsals and would go over, this is how you put on a show. This is the move you need to do. This is how you do this. Make it a show. Make it a stage show. And they came up with this spectacle. Of course, we know the makeup and all that other stuff. But they filmed themselves practicing. Film yourself giving a speech. Film yourself how you greet people. And watch your facial expressions. Do you light up? Do you treat them like, hey, this is great? Or are you like, yeah, okay, come on in. All right, we're going to go over this that you don't know because you can't see it, how you interact with people.
Sure. I mean, Teams meetings and Zoom meetings, we've all been on those, with the past couple of years. And I'm like, that's what I actually look like.
Right. That resting bee face. You know what I mean?
100%. So Vanessa Van Edwards gives really good practical advice on those types of things. Someone who's fairly new to me, but not new to everyone else, is Jefferson Fisher. He's this young lawyer who produces a lot of Instagram and YouTube shorts in his car, of all places. But he is a masterful communicator. So he'll talk about, if someone belittles you in a conversation, what do you do to respond?
Right.
One thing that was really, really great that he said recently is if someone's coming at you and they're being really verbally aggressive, you have the choice. You can physically step back and calm down. Lower your voice.
Which most of us don't do, by the way.
Right. And think, they've just put something down at my feet. Do I need to pick that up? So it's like, remind yourself, am I picking up what they've put down? Again, if you're in control of yourself,
yes,
you can choose to pick that up, or you can choose to just let it lay right there.
Oh, my God. I am so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up. I had a guy tell me a couple years ago, and it changed the way I interact with everybody. He goes, every morning I put on my catcher's mask and my catcher's outfit. And I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And he goes, nope, hear me out. You go into the world with your mitt, your catcher's mitt out and your gear. If somebody throws something your way, you catch it, you turn it, you look at it. If you don't need it and you want to utilize it, throw it back. Just what you said. If somebody lays this at your feet, do you pick it up or do you say, not for me? Confidence is not, I hope they like me. Confidence is, I'll be fine even if they don't.
Absolutely.
And that again, blew my mind that I was like, I never thought of that before. I don't have to accept your insults. I don't have to accept how you view me. That's a you problem. That's not a me problem.
Sure.
So why am I going through the world absorbing all this negativity or, whatever? If you can't use it, don't utilize it. Don't use it. Throw it back.
Yeah, I think this is really actionable. These types of things are really actionable in a lot of real world applications.
Absolutely.
One is succession planning. Especially around here in small communities, you see that people have built businesses up or they've gotten businesses from a family member. Mm-hmm. Or even, a partner or something like that, or farming. That's a big succession conversation. Oh, yeah. And the people in the room just do not have the mental, emotional, and communicational skills to deal with something as heavy as a succession plan.
Yeah.
Especially when it's so emotionally tied. And a lot of these resources, Jefferson Fisher will talk, has some actionable things that can help in your succession planning, which is really, really huge. Dave Ramsey, everybody knows him from,
we carry him on
the money
KODI,
guy.
Right?
Exactly. He has a podcast called Entree Leadership.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's also super helpful and provides a lot of really good, actionable, tangible things that you can implement into your leadership sphere. And I think really the biggest thing for me was that I needed to become a student of skills. So as a leader, first and foremost, I believe that it is a relentless pursuit of truth over the only thing that you can control, which is yourself, right?
Correct.
That looks like health and my own personal health and well-being, making sure that I'm standing on my axis. That is number 2, belief that everyone is valuable and treating them as such.
Right. And
number 3, being a student of skills. We're not born into this world as excellent leaders. I mean, I think some people do have gifts and talents that help them in their leadership journey. And then other people don't have anything, right? But they're just skills that you can acquire,
right? Like
reading and writing.
Or like picking up a sport. You practice, right?
Exactly. Everyone can be better at being a leader. And the tools that we've talked about today from Bob Chapman, Craig Rochelle, Patrick Lencioni, Jefferson Fisher, Vanessa Van Edwards, they're all really, really great, free, actionable resources. And
available.
YouTube.
They're available out there.
Yep.
Park County Prosperity is the name of this segment. We do it a couple times a month. I'm with Rebekah Burns, Powell Economic Partnership. We're going to have more Speak Your Piece coming up on KODI. All right, Speak Your Piece continues now on KODI with my guest in studio, Rebekah Burns from the Powell Economic Partnership. Park County Prosperity. Kind of sort of tossing around ideas on business, leadership, that kind of thing. One of the things I think is very helpful is a growth mindset. And correct me if I'm wrong. If you don't have a growth mindset, you're going to be left behind, right? Your business can't grow. Your company can't grow. Your organization, whatever it is, can't grow. But how do you get one? How do you get a growth mindset? What do you think?
Okay, big question.
And then what does that lead to?
I think that if you've done the following things, if you've been focused on your personal health and well-being, you have a belief that everybody is intrinsically valuable, you have a student of skills, it's hard not to have a growth mindset at that point. And I think sometimes you don't need to start this journey with a growth mindset, but understand that's probably what you're going to obtain at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I think growth mindset is, everybody says, well, we need a growth mindset or we need to grow, especially in economic development. Like, you cannot do this job if you're not trying to grow the community.
Right.
It's like literally
Right.
the measures are, census, job growth, are you bringing utilities in to actually physically grow the footprint of a city, the area for businesses to be in, site development, all that kind of stuff. It's all about growth. And I think, honestly, let's just say it. Westerners have a really hard time with this. Is that
because we've got such an independent thought process of, rugged, independent, I'll solve my own problems, the individualism, or is it something else?
I think it's to do with the rural nature of where we're living.
And what I've experienced is, well, it's always worked this way, so why change it? Well, what if you had a better opportunity, or this could change this, and that would have
Is it really working? And if it is,
right.
who is it really working for?
Right.
I think if you really looked at it, and like I said at the beginning of the show, we interview business and industry constantly, and we've just done this huge in-person survey. So this isn't my assumptions. This is what I'm being told by the people that we're representing. I think, not growing works for a selected few, but it does not work for the many. And it certainly doesn't work for future generations.
Right.
And so if you're looking to grow your business, that means that you need to grow a workforce. If you need to grow a workforce, that means you need to grow a community. That means you need to have more people go through your school district, more people go through, community college and higher ed and so on and so forth. You need to be inviting to the people who have the skills that are not already here and they're from other places.
Yeah.
You need to be inviting to those family members, so on and so forth. And growth is hard because it's change.
Yeah.
And most people do not like change, but you cannot have growth without change.
Right.
And ultimately, if you're a leader, you need to make a decision. At some point you decide. You're sitting at the office and maybe you're having a lot of turnover. You're sitting at the office and maybe you have a culture that you just can't get behind.
Right.
You're sitting at the office and you're like, you know what? I'm exhausted at the end of the day. This job doesn't fill me. It's taking my energy away. Guess what? That means that you need to make a decision. Are you going to do something differently to improve yourself and the people around you?
Right.
And if you are, it starts, number one, with your own personal health and well-being.
Yeah.
Then it starts with an intrinsic belief that everyone around you is valuable. And then you have to be a student of skills. And that growth mindset will ultimately bring you to building a community.
Yeah. Which is so important because, as Aristotle once said, we are political and social animals. We don't live in a bubble. We're not hermits. We don't live just on our own island doing our own thing. We have to interact with each other. And that's why I always go back to lead with kindness. Just be nice. Like in Roadhouse, when Patrick Swayze says, it's just easier to be nice. Now, when it's not, you don't need to be nice. That's a different story, but just be nice. And things open up. Things really open up because you're not then so focused on yourself. You're focused on others, which is also a growth mindset too. How can I serve you? How can I help you? Rather than, what are you going to do for me? I mean, I learned this a long time ago. The more I invested in opportunities for service, the more it came back threefold. Why wouldn't you want that for yourself or your business?
Absolutely. And I think that is, when you're getting into service, you're getting into a higher calling and your purpose.
Yes.
And ultimately, that is where we all need to land. What is my higher calling? What is my purpose? Can I do that and sell insurance? Can I do that and be a DJ at the radio host? Can I do that and be an economic developer? Or do I need to do something else? Right. So, yeah, that's the arc.
We need to take this on the road, you and me. We need to take this to every town in Wyoming. That's what we need to do. You are silent. You're not responding at all to that. Okay. All right.
Well, if someone wants to engage more in this content, they can come to our next pep talk, which is on March 26th at Northwest College. It is $20 a person for lunch and an hour and a half conversation. You'll walk away with some really actionable, tangible things that you can implement for yourself or for your team or for your family on that day, March 26th.
All right, Rebekah Burns, the Powell Economic Partnership. She's the executive director. We're talking Park County prosperity here. Always good to see you, and I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Great. Thank you.
No